right, so today we're going to be working on our Build It series, building an epic playlist. And this is part of the Gas and Blended. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is where this PD will be added once we're done with it, probably in a few days for our Wednesday sessions. But also, we do continue to add more videos. I think we're up to like 108 now. And we've tried to break them down, but definitely check it out. It's worth it, and it'll teach you how to do a lot of things if you're confused or need some extra help. And then, of course, if that doesn't help, always reach out to your ITF. We're always welcome to help you. All right, so today our session goals are we're going to create some epic playlists. First, we're going to identify playlist attributes, and we're going to examine sample playlists. And then we're going to use templates to create our own. All right, so give me just a moment. All right, so the big idea today is that playlists are specifically designed for remote learning. So while you're looking at this picture, they show a sequence set of resources for students to work through independently. Basically, let's think of a playlist as the directions that your friend gave you to their house. And so you follow those directions that he or she gave you. Versus a learning pathway, which we're going to get to later. They provide choices for that are better suited for blended learning. And think of the pathway as being when you go into Google Maps, and I don't know if you can see me now because I'm reconnecting. Okay, let me repeat this. Okay, yeah, it just popped out. So think of the playlist as being here, I wrote down the directions, stop at the 7-Eleven, take a left, etc. You follow those. And the learning pathway as being more of when you go into Google Maps on your app, and you click, okay, I need to get to UNCC. And it says, do you want to take via 85? Do you want to go 74? And you get to choose on the direction that you think is best suited for you. So think about it like that. All right, so let's engage with this real quick and start with, what questions do you have about playlists? I want you to use the Jamboard, and I'm going to put the link in the chat for you whenever that comes up. Not that chat, this chat. And tell me questions that you may have about playlists. And as me and Kyle are going through this presentation today, we're going to look and make sure that we try to answer all of the questions. So when you click on it, if you haven't used Jamboard before, and of course, there we go. You're just going to pull a sticky right over and tell me any questions that you have. You should be able to edit this playlist, which means you can add to the stickies. Let me know if you can't. I think I made it so everybody can edit. Yep, we can. Yay. And don't forget, when you're doing that, you have to click and drag and drop because they all stack on top of each other. So I'm going to be quiet and give you just a moment to think about any questions you have. And I am just talking away and I was muted, of course. So what I was saying was, thank you, Kyle. He put up the presentation link for today for those of you just joining, and the Jamboard link. And what I've asked you to do is take a sticky note and put on here any questions that you have about playlists so we can be sure to answer them in our session today. These are good ones. All right, just about another minute. And also, if you think about one as we're going throughout the presentation, add it to it. And so at the very end, we can look at this and make sure that we've answered all the questions to the best of our ability. All right, so let me go back. All right, so let me say that these glasses are about to fall. As you move from playlist to learning plans or pathways, you will emphasize the to-do list less and set standards for levels of proficiency in your evidence. What should your students know and what can they do? Student ownership and choice increase, as do the specificness of the standards, which you ultimately lead to the personalized learning pathway and divided learning progression. So what are the differences? Because I know that you have heard since we've started Schoology and then moved into the checklist from the county, it says playlist on there and learning plan and pathways. So what are the differences? Well, that's what we're going to look at right now. And so we're going to look at specifically beginning playlist. And if you have been through this Modern Teacher module, you will have seen some of this. But a beginning playlist is a sequenced set of resources, tasks, or activities for students to work through independently. And like I said before, this is why this is best suited for remote learning. They are focused on a specific content aligned to a learning target. It could be organized by days or subject, but the students move through all of the same content and there's very little differentiation. So keep that in mind. All students will move through the progression that you have set for them. The learner has a clear understanding of what the teacher expects to be completed. You do this on Monday, you do this on Tuesday, or this is what you do today in math or ELA, okay? So it's often organized by the day of the week. You do complete the activities in a predetermined sequence, little or no differentiation, and also often has an entry point with having students to work independently. We have linked an example here of one that you can see. It just literally is a to-do list. Tells you what to do. Here's what you're going to do on Monday, and this was for math. Tuesday, Wednesday, and you see it. And this is the one from the Modern Teacher modules.
Yeah, and we should clarify too that all this, I don't believe it, I don't know if you said it or not, Christy, but all this came from Modern Teachers modules on playlists and learning plans. So it's not that you should know these terms yet, and that's why we're clarifying the difference between the two.
Right, absolutely. And if you've heard them, you may have heard them interchangeably. Oh, you need to create a playlist or a pathway. And so we're wanting to be distinguished because they are distinguished in Modern Teacher. All right, so the other one is the playlist, the learning plan, and the pathways. So this one is a little bit different. With learning plans and pathways, we increase student ownership. Learning plans provide a variety of activities types that provide for differences in learning preferences and modalities. Learning plans offer choice in student learning, and by us giving the choices, we're offering students the opportunity to make choices about the type of learning experiences that they want to engage in, which that allows for increased responsibility on the learner as it relates to the activities that they need to complete. So it's, of course, aligned to a standard or a learning target, but it's organized into 3 sections. You will have the learn it, the practice it, and the evidence of learning. It allows for personalized pacing, and it allows for student choice in each section. And so when we look at this one, oh, and also it allows for, you can scaffold to have acceleration or extend activities, or you can increase the differentiation. So when you're looking at this one, now this one isn't complete, like with things, but as you can see, they have the learn it. Let me make it just a little bit larger for you guys. So you have the learn about it, the practice it, and the evidence. You have a must do, but then in order to learn about it, there's also a choice that's been added in there. Same thing for the practice it and the evidence of learning. So do you guys see the difference? Are there any questions that you have right now before
I think we addressed one of the questions on the Jamboard was how personalized is a playlist expected to be? And technically, the playlist, and again, we tend to muddy words together in education a lot, but technically a playlist is do this, right?
Right.
That's why it works well for the remote learning we're in, because they're home and they need to be directed a little bit right now at how to go about things. But we hope that over time we would get to pathways so we can reach everybody a little bit better at where they are. But we know that we're probably at playlist land right now, and that's okay.
Right. Absolutely, Kyle. And also that's why the learning plans go more with the blended learning, because as the kids are still in the classroom and you're seeing them and they're going home, it works better because then you start to differentiate just like you would in your classroom with small groups and activities that the students need to do. All right, so Kyle's going to take you to the next step, and I will be sharing my screen so he can jump in.
All right, it should be popping up now. There we go. All right, so let's just dig into a couple of examples of playlists. We were kind of weary of even giving you firm examples because we know that when we're new to things, and I know a lot of you guys in this room aren't, but we know that when we're new to things, we tend to want to mimic the example we have. And I can't encourage you to avoid that more. We are going to give you lots of templates, but we don't want you to think that the certain look and feel is something that's required of a playlist. We simply took, with our basic ones or beginner ones, the samples from Modern Teacher and tried to make them suit us, what we would do as teachers. So on the left here, you'll see one that Teresa did. You can see it has the same basic look and feel as this one. It's just a table that has the days of the week on it. And you can see the basics are the same. And I'm going to zoom in and show you a little bit more of the details on hers. But before I do, this one, which was created by one of our teachers, Randy Froelich, isn't anything like that. It is organized much more like that intermediate playlist or pathway or learning plan, whatever word you want to use for that second one that Christy showed you. And it's obviously for younger students. It's for, I believe, kindergarten, Christy, and first grade. And
yes, she uses it. She's a kindergarten teacher.
And so it's much more heavy on visuals than the other one. And you can see it's not even organized by days of the week. She actually does one of these each day. Now I do want to address, I just want to make sure we're being good stewards of the question. So a couple of people ask questions of, should I have a playlist for each subject or for each week? That's actually, I've seen it done well both ways. You can see that Mandy here has it broken down by each day. So hers has all the subjects for each day on it. You can see on Teresa's that she has each day in one subject. This particular one is actually first grade, though I know Teresa would make it much more visual if she were really using it with first graders. It looks much more like my fifth grade one too. So it's one subject. I have worked with teachers who use the one on the left and it's got all the subjects on one. It kind of depends on look and feel. I wouldn't put any more text on the page to the left in that example. So I would do a playlist per subject if I were getting any more text heavy than that. but it does depend on look and feel. One of the other questions addresses, okay, well, how much work's all that going to be? It's a Google slide, so it's actually not that bad. If you did do one for each subject, for example, it'd be easy to have one that you linked all the reading to, copy that same slide, change the color to a different color for math, and put the links for math on it. Okay, so it'd just be changing the background or something like that, and we can show you how to do that. So
Hey, Kyle,
what I
can I
want
say
you to
something?
do, yeah,
Can I
please.
add something?
Yeah.
What I was going to say is what I've been telling my teachers. Think about it like this. This playlist is like that area of your room that you spend a lot of time on at the beginning of the year to create, whether it's your job chart or something, and you make it really pretty. And then it stays like that for the rest of the year. And then you just may move the job people around. So that's what you would do with the playlist.
Yeah, good point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lead you into the examples that we created for you guys. So if you will, go into your courses and find the Getting Started course that Christy made certain you were a member of earlier. Click on whichever one you have. If you don't see it on your little drop-down menu here, you probably have buried it. It's hurtful, really, but you probably buried it. So if you click on My Courses at the top right, you'll see it in your list. It'll say Getting Started with Schoology, and you'll have whatever cohort your school belongs to. So when you click on that, I'm going to slow down now, make sure everybody's there. Come back to my comments, make sure. So it's courses, My Courses, and then Getting Started with Schoology. This was that training that you did in, gosh, what, August? So scroll all the way down, and you'll see a green folder where we've added modules since August. These aren't required, so don't worry. But if you open that up by clicking a little greater than guide here, it opens up all these folders. And inside of that is the Build It series. So if you open that guy up, you'll see examples for Learn It, Practice It, Evidence, and our playlist. So I'm going to click on the Build It playlist, and you can follow me if you want. And this is an example of what it could look like inside of Schoology. It is just a Google slide that's been embedded, like you could embed a Google slide for your Learn It. An example of that would be how Async typically puts like a Google slideshow in there with their videos and links and stuff. So it works the same way. If you want to go in yours and click around, you'll see how it kind of links together to other Schoology pages. Okay, so all you'll do is click on where it says Learn It, and it takes you to another Schoology page that has that Learn It in there. This particular work, we didn't reinvent the wheel for this. That's another Google slideshow. That's just a lesson from Async, right? So I can go back to my playlist and navigate through the rest of my stuff. Somebody did ask how to embed a video, so I'll show you how to do that when we start to make ours. But that's how that's done. And that's a video that Teresa made to give an overview of the week, which would be a great idea because it's a good way for your kids to see you and hear an actual verbal explanation of what's going on all week. But you see that it's just a jumping off point for all the content in Schoology, or some of the occasions when it's not, like my Wednesday meeting. Okay. So I don't know what that noise is. So Wendy says, so I already do a remote homework sheet, so I just add the links to it. I mean, in some cases, yeah, it depends on what your homework sheet or your remote sheet or your checklist looks like. But since we're doing playlist, yes, a lot of people have done that. They've taken a document that at some point people realized, parents really, and somebody mentioned this, needed like a guide just to know what their kid was supposed to do. And getting to Schoology and training the parents to get into Schoology and find all the stuff was part of the battle. But part of it was also that we are, there's a lot of noise around me, I'm sorry. Part of it was also that they were going to send home a paper playlist anyway to kind of give the parents a check-off list of what they needed their students to do. And so a lot of people have found that the digital playlist is just kind of a merger of those two ideas. So they might even send home the playlist printed too, knowing that the links won't work, but it gives the parents a tangible and students a tangible checkoff sheet to make sure their kids have done everything for the week. So you can jump in any of those cohorts, any of the ones that you might belong to, and check out how all it does is link and create like a roadmap, like Christy said, to the content for the week. That video auto plays. All right, so.
How I'm looking. Wendy said she doesn't see the folder in cohort 3.
Mm-hmm.
I see it. Do you, or am I just? It's the Build It series all the way at the very bottom, Wendy. It's green, and then there'll be a pink folder that says ELA first grade example playlist.
Yeah, it's in there.
Oh, okay, she got it. Okay.
Cool. All right, so we want to spend the balance of our time helping you brainstorm and create the playlist, because this is part of the Build It series, so we want to spend the balance of the time actually building one. So what I want to show you next, and I'll stop flipping around between 100 tabs, I apologize. What I want to show you next is some examples from the actual field. So again, this came directly from Modern Teacher. It's not been edited or anything. That is like their first, this is a playlist, where it is just a table on a Google slide, and you just type in the text that you want to link to, and off you go. Now, I should point out that we are so not minimizing what needs to go into a good learn it practice that are more evidence. It's just we handled all that in the other Build It series. So we're making the assumption that everybody in here has been teaching in Schoology since August. So you probably have at least one folder of Schoology content, including one of each of those 3 things somewhere in your Schoology. That was kind of a joke, because folders, I'm sure you're kind of getting sick of folders. So you probably have lots of folders of stuff. So we're gonna have lots of raw material to use today. The one on the right there is a picture of Kim DeFarce and Catherine Pleshniks, who do GVA. So you can see how theirs is organized quite differently. They do that same slide, they do it by subject, but you can see that because they're GVA, and we know we have some GVA teachers in here now, they organize that top row by stuff they do together in their live meetings when they're teaching live in Google Meet. So that's their way of giving the kids the links they'll need for the live instruction. And then the you do part is the stuff the kids go to do, I was about to say offline, not offline, but away from the teacher. So while they're pulling like a small group, the other students can be working on their practices and evidences for that week. Okay, so the kids get that little menu every week. It's just a guiding landing page. It's like when Mr. Kessler comes into the beginning of the staff meeting, hands you your agenda, and you know what to expect for that meeting. It's the same thing you're doing each week for your kids. Some teachers have even likened it to, this looks a whole lot like my lesson plans. In some cases it does. You would take off all the verbiage, all the teachery verbiage, and give them the links to the pages that they need. So what you can do now is you can click on this folder here, and you'll notice that, a Google folder is linked, and you can click on that Google folder. And you're welcome to start with any of these examples as your playlist. If you're thinking you have any apprehension about it and you're just not 100% sold on how you're going to organize yours today, I would recommend starting with the beginning playlist. If you kind of have an idea that that's kind of not what you want, then there's lots of options. Most of them look sort of or versions of that, though, right? So for today, anyway, that's what I'm going to work off of. So I'm going to double click on my beginning playlist. And for you, you'll need to do File, make a copy of whichever one you want. Oops. File, make a copy of whichever one you want, and hit Entire Presentation to open up your one to use today. Okay, I'm going to leave it up to you as to whether or not you're making the one you're actually going to push out to students next week, or if you're making one to kind of learn the ropes of playlist creation. Okay. Ideally, what I would do is have my course that I want to make a playlist for pulled up now. And as we build our playlist, you can choose to elect to, to link, I should have said, to the actual items in your course if you want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time to peruse the examples. and we'll get started in just a minute. We'll come back and check the chat. Christy's put the link to the folder in the chat, so you can click there and find whichever one you like. So on my screen, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm keeping the questions up, so if I hear you say something, I'm going to reinforce, like,
perfect.
Say it answers, yeah. And so far, I think the rest of these are going to be, you're going to cover most of them, and then at the end, talking about sharing. So we're going to get to your questions, guys.
That's the big one. All right, cool. So I'm just closing some stuff so I don't muddy the waters any, because I want to make sure. Close my copy. I want to make sure I have only what I need up, so I can kind of teach you, because a lot of it is the process, right? There's places we can definitely take shortcuts and places we definitely will not be able to. All right. So basically, the next 10 minutes or so are really not playlist training. They're really like, let's make a cool looking Google slide. And it kind of goes back to what Christy was talking about. You're going to deal with this once. You know, you're going to make it look nice one time, and then we're going to do the functions of actually updating the playlist weekly. So I don't want you to think it's going to take all this time each time. Typically, what I do when I work with a group is we work on the linking and the actual functionality of it first, and then they kind of have to go back and make it look nice. But I want to show you how to make it look decent, you know, today, so that you can leave with something that you can kind of wrap your brain around and kind of make it look like what you want, something you can be proud of and you can reuse just repeatedly. All right, so first thing I would do, I'm assuming, if nobody holds their hand up or says so, that everybody has a copy of something they're willing to play with first. Is everybody cool? All right. Now, again, I know some of you guys are playlist pros, so please don't judge. We're starting with the basics. All right. So I've got my playlist up here. The first thing you need to make a simple playlist in slides is a table, okay? So if you click on this guy, any old where, you're going to notice that it's outlined in a pale blue, and this whole thing is just a table. If you want to make any adjustments to the table, you're going to notice, and I need to zoom in as well, you're going to notice that when you click in a cell, as you can imagine, as a table on Docs or Word or anything, you can kind of move stuff around a little bit, okay? That's all you need to do. Now, if you don't want this box here, then you can click in this row, right click on it, or on a Chromebook, 2-finger click is right click, remember? And on a Mac too. You can delete that row, right? We are really encouraged to use I can statements, so, and you should, so I'm going to keep that though. If you don't have a table and you're starting from absolute scratch and you're just curious, like, because you're like, none of these templates are exactly what I want, then you would just go insert. I'm going to make another slide so I don't mess this one up. You're going to go insert table, and it's one of those where you can kind of draw it and kind of determine how many cells you want. So I'm just kind of counting. I want Monday through Friday, so 5. I want a heading, and I want a space for my I can statements. And on my particular playlist, I added one at the bottom for my parents to be like, don't forget to send in money for the school shirt or some random reminders, because I'm thinking about that for the parent angle. So I'm going to make 8 rows on mine. And then I'm thinking I either do 2 or 3 wide. I want the one that's going to say like the days of the week, and then I want the one that's got the content in it. Maybe I want another one. Sometimes I like putting a picture in there. So I'll do 8 by 2. And I just get a table, and then I can stretch this out and make certain rows taller than others, right? So that's already happened. This is like a cooking show. I always say that. This is like a cooking show. That's already happened, and you're here, okay? So it's just a table. To make the border the colors you want, when you click on the table itself, you'll see, again, you get this kind of pale blue outline. This pencil is the color of the border. So let me make it show up better so you can, ooh, that is worse. I'm going to change the color, and I can change the thickness of the border by doing this line weight icon here, where I can make it fatter if I want to. I would also recommend, and this is actually more important than it sounds, I'd also recommend hitting the paint bucket and filling it probably white. I bet you can take a guess at why I need to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a background, right? I don't love this plain blue, okay? You can see on the examples, they all have some kind of interesting background of some sort. And again, this sounds like stuff that's hugely unimportant, but we all know we want to do it. and once we do it once, we're good. So while I'm not clicked on anything, I'll just click out here somewhere. I do have the word background. If I don't see that, it's because I'm clicked on something and it thinks I'm trying to edit the text or the table or the picture or whatever. If I click off of everything, I'll get this background button. When I click background, I get options that are simple, like the color, but I also get image. You can make your own image in something if you want to get really cool with it. You can make an image in slides in Canva without the S. Some kind of image editing software that you might use. If you don't want to do any of that, Google image search is fun. And you can put in something as simple as what I did, which was like blue background. And you can click on any of these and it will size it to the Google slide. Some of these will not work because they just won't make sense. But remember, we made the table, I mean, that might be cool. We made the table have a white background so that it's going to cover up the most of it. So we're really just looking for a cool border. So I'm going to go with this one. I don't know if it's going to work well or not, but it's easy to change. So I'm just going to click on it and click insert. And then I'm going to click done. That's kind of tragic, but I'm going to roll with it for now. That is not pretty. Okay, so, all right, so that's the basics of the background, and that's it, okay? Are there any questions thus far? Table and background.
Cal, we do have one question. Amanda wants to know if this works the same in Docs. So I was going to let you talk about that.
Okay, so yes, a lot of people use Docs as their playlist too. The reason that we don't is because and you've probably experienced this. In fact, I know we have. When you insert a picture, like an icon in a doc, it's kind of hard to like drag it around and put it where you want. It bumps text out of the way and stuff. And Slides doesn't do that. It works more like Paint did back in the day. So you can kind of like let the picture sit on top of the text and it doesn't make a difference. You don't have to deal with text wrapping and stuff. So that's why we like Slides. But we've seen some amazing ones using Docs, such as this one from Ashley Harkey at Bell Central. This is a document. So you see it's automatically a little more rigid because you can't just put images wherever you want. The images like to be in straight lines with text, but it looks great. And it's honestly whichever one you're more comfortable with. I like Slides because I always create visual stuff in Slides, and I'm thinking about this being fairly visual, so that's why we start with that. You can definitely do it the other way. That's a really good question. All right, so the next thing you're going to do is the simple part. You're just going to type in what you want to say, right? So it's going to image towards playlist, and so I'm not going to do all that. That's the easy part. And I'm going to label what week it is, or if you've organized it instead by the topic, like this is the Force in Motion playlist or the standard, that would be helpful too. But for now, I'm just going to say the week of 2/1/21. And I don't know what I can't say it's hard for this because this isn't real. But yeah, so on Monday, I would just start doing things like what's my Learn It for Monday. I'm not putting all the stuff that's on the Learn It rubric here because that would be too much text. That's going to be on my Schoology page. Okay. So remember, I'm pretending that I already have my Schoology stuff done, and now I'm making the map to it. So I do like the map analogy because I'm likening it to I can't give you directions to something until it's built. So all my Schoology stuff's done. I've already done my Learn It, Practice It, and evidences, and now I'm building the map to it for the kids. Okay, so that's really simple. I just come in and type in my stuff. So maybe on Monday I will Learn It and I Practice It. And on Tuesday I have another Learn It, and maybe I have an evidence. So on, right? So I would do that for all my stuff based upon whatever I've already built in Schoology. Okay. So once you get that set up, you're reusing this thing every week. just changing out the pictures that you feel like changing out, and the obviously the links. Okay, so now let's link this and make it a map to my stuff in Schoology. So if you'll go in Schoology to one of your courses, hopefully you have a folder for one of your weeks of instruction. You can see how mine is in my course. There's my folder for the week, and there's my playlist, my map sitting right on top of the folder, so it smacks the kid right in the face when they get there. Okay, so what's happening here is inside that folder's the guts, all this nasty stuff that you don't want kids to try to navigate, because look at it, it's horrible looking. So this is my stuff for this week, okay? So go ahead and find a folder in one of your courses, maybe for this week or maybe next week if you have it already done. And let's say this is for Monday, then all I have to do is click on that link to open up my page. So this is my little mini lesson page that admittedly needs some work. And I've got my link up here. All I have to do is hyperlink this to my playlist, because it's just going to map me to this link. It's just going to be like a web page. It's going to hyperlink me to all the stuff that goes with it. So I'm just going to click on the link and copy it. So make sure you're doing that with me. Grab a link from your course. And basically the bulk of the time spent in the playlist is going to be going from Schoology to the playlist to get the link in there and back and forth. Okay. Again, all my stuff for Good Learning ought to be here. This is very old, so I have to go back and edit all that stuff in. So go back to my playlist, and I'm going to say this is the Learn It About whatever topic it is. So I'm going to say it's, I'm going to pretend that it's watch this video on force and motion.
Hey, Kyle, can I add something there?
Go for it.
Be sure to always include like what Kyle just did, where he typed it out and he's going to link it, and not just put the link to the Schoology page, because a text reader, if somebody's using that, they won't be able to, they'll read HTTP. So be sure that you're putting like, watch this video and click here.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, and please do put text at all, because the part of the reason we're doing this is because it's too text heavy in Schoology, but the link is not real easy to understand. That doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? It's just this link. So again, I'm just copying this link. I'm taking it back to the playlist, and I'm going to say complete this simulation on Newton's first law. I want to be fairly specific, but I'm really trying to watch my text. I already don't like that I have this much text, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. So once you type in what you want to link to, you just highlight those words. You click on the chain to link stuff, just like you always do. In Schoology, it works very, very similar. Everything, usually, if you can find that kind of icon, it works. It's a little different. Sometimes it's tilted, and Schoology is tilted. So just paste it in the link and hit apply. And so you're going to do this to map all the stuff in your folder for the week to this playlist. So again, those of you that said, do I need one playlist for everything that week? Do I need it for each subject? It kind of depends on how much text you're talking, right? If you can fit it in this box, I have a second grade group I work with that definitely does, and it says science, learn it, do this. It also gives you a way to prioritize what you want them to do. But if you find that it's too text heavy, or that you need it to be more visual, like that kindergarten example, then obviously you're not gonna have room for more text if you have a lot of pictures. It's really not more, it's just another document. Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering how you make sure that, let's see what I'm trying to say. I want to embed the video, but I just want that video visual, so like they can't go down a rabbit hole on YouTube. Yes,
ma'am. I'll show you that. I'll show you that too. So okay, let me show you one more thing before that, and then I'll show you that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I'm getting to be kind of super big on making sure I'm being visual enough, and I don't mean in a cool way, but making sure I'm using visual anchors. So what I mean by that is getting my kids in my remote learning stuff used to certain icons and images that exemplify certain things. Maybe I have an icon that I always use for all learn-its, because then I could trim out the words learn it on everything, on the playlist, not on the pages in Schoology. And maybe I have an icon that stands for practice it, or maybe I have an icon that stands for this is a video versus this is a PDF I want you to read versus whatever else, right? If I can do that and trim down the words and get it to be more like, gosh, like apps on a phone almost, then it can become second nature. But the key to that is using that same image every single time. So something that'd be easy to do would be like the clever icon for iReady, because they know that for sure, right? So on Wednesday, if you wanted to do a teacher assigned iReady assignment, then lesson, instead of typing teacher assigned iReady lesson out, why not put in a picture? So just as I put in text, I could insert whatever picture I want by going insert image or clicking the image icon, that mountain icon we're very used to. And I can go to drive and find one I already have. I'm really super nerdy about saving icons of websites I use a lot, for example. So I do have those icons. I can search the web from Google Images, or I can upload one from my computer, which on a Chromebook obviously still means drive. So when I hit search for the web, then I'm going to take a stab at a clever icon. Yeah, no, that ain't gonna work. So I'll take a stab at iReady and then I'll punt. Yeah. You do need to understand that this particular image search is different than Google Image outside of slides. So that's why stuff's not popping up. So I'm just gonna go with a video icon. I'm just gonna say video, and actually that's kind of cool looking. So I'm just gonna drag it over here. Whoa, that's giant. Okay, I can resize it like I do images all the time. Again, I feel like this is Google Slides training, not playlist training. So anyway, let's just say that's the way I want it. That's way too little, but I'm going to sit that on my Learn It instead of typing Learn It sometimes. Maybe if I use this icon for Learn It all the time, I can put it here. And Amanda, this is where being in slides is nicer than docs, because I can just move it wherever I want, a little easier. And I can make this icon, I'd definitely crop this and make it look prettier, but the point is that my icon's there. And while it's clicked on, while it's selected, I can also link to it. So I could link directly to the video maybe, or to a page in Schoology, whatever it is. Let me go back to my folder and grab that page. So let's say I think this was the Wednesday stuff. Oh yeah, it's about YouTube, sweet. Link, Control C, go to the image, make sure it's clicked on, hit the link button again, Control V. So it's that same pattern over and over and over again, okay? That's if you can get some icons they're used to. Now, again, in the examples, I think Mrs. Froelich did a really good job of using these little kids we always love for the different subjects. On my example, I was trying to figure out how to trim down the icons, and over time, I would get rid of some of the words, and I would use this little person at the board as a Learn It, and this little arrow that looks like a share arrow as the stuff they need to practice and send to me, and this red thing as the test. And of course, you can stick in your Bitmojis, whatever you want to do with that. That's all looks. The only part we're doing Schoology-wise is linking the stuff in here. Okay, so again, that's just making a normal link like you do when you're building your Schoology stuff anyway, probably. Okay. So I'm going to continue doing that. I think I've got everything in here except for the video. So if I wanted a video like Teresa's that was kind of the intro for the week, what I would probably do is I'd probably shoot that video in Loom, and then I would insert it. Now, the way you insert a video is you come up to insert again, like everything else, and there's video. The caveat for that is it's only going to work if it's already on YouTube, which we probably don't want to deal with, or it's in my Google Drive. So I can go to Google Drive and find any video I've saved there, and I can click on it and select it, and it will put it in there just like a picture. Now, Kelly, we probably then need to know how in the world we get these videos to Drive. So that's what I'll show you. And then what she did is she just made some real estate for it by making it really little. But when you click on it, I hope I don't say anything really bad here, like really not real smart. When you click on it, when it's saved and you click on it, when it's place in your course and you click on it, there'll be a box like this guy to make it full screen. Okay. Or it'll just play there if you're not really worried about the visual so much, but in this case, we definitely would be. So the way that you get a Loom video to drive is actually quite easy. It's super easy on a Chromebook. If you come up to your little Loom icon that you use probably all the time for you guys, you right click on it, because we know if we click on it, it's going to want to record. If I right click on it, I can go straight to Loom. I can find my video that I've recorded. I just did this one a minute ago, well, not literally a minute ago, an hour ago. I can click on the little three dots and download it. And when you download it on a Chromebook, instead of choosing where to take it, you will tell it to go into your Google Drive, and then you can insert it. So it's actually very fast on a Chromebook. For me, I've got to download it on my PC and then upload it to Drive. But on your Chromebook, you'll just direct it to what folder you want it to save to in your Drive. So I would probably make a folder called weekly videos or something like that and just save it straight to it. It's actually very fast, Kelly. The other step you would need to remember to do, like we do for everything Google, and I think Melissa mentioned this earlier too, is to make sure that video is shared, anyone with link can view, or at least anyone in Gaston County Schools with link can view. Okay. I'm coming up against my time for this particular portion, so I want to make sure there's no questions, and then I'm going to move on. I feel like I'm going a little fast.
Kyle, we just had a quick question from Leah about not having to build the folders anymore. And like, I don't know, Leah, if you want to speak out and say if I didn't catch it right, but I'm thinking you had a folder for like Monday, and then you had the Learn It folder, Practice It folder, Evidence of Learning. So I don't necessarily think you would need those.
No, definitely not.
Right. I just was saying you may want to have a folder for you so that all of this week's work or topic or unit or however you have it organized is all together for you. But with the kids being linked to the playlist, that's all they're going to follow. They wouldn't need the folders for the organization.
And that's kind of one, you're 100% right. That's kind of one where, like, yeah, doing the playlist it feels like an extra step, but you're also cheating by taking a step away from somewhere else, right? So when I lay this,
sorry to interrupt. That does answer my question, but my concern was we do build the Schoology folders because they're easy to share with teachers. So I guess now my next question is, because I don't want to double the work. So if I can build it in just the playlist and link everything through the playlist, and I do it in a slide, can I then share just the slide with my other teachers?
Oh, no.
Everything pull in?
So the way that we do it is we make one folder for the subject, and probably like what you guys do. So like mine would kind of look like this. Let's say this is the week's work. Everything's in that week's work. And so I share this I place this entire parent folder here in my resources, and then my peer teachers can just pull in the entire folder from resources. They just copy it to their course. The only thing they will have to do on their side for the work end is maybe their playlist looks different, or maybe it doesn't look different, but the links are going to be different, because when I copy your work into my course, then now it's in my courses, like this number right here, that guy is mine, not yours. So all my pages, the links will be different. So all the receiving teacher would have to do is come in and change the links. Now I know that sounds like a whole lot, but keep in mind that receiving teacher didn't make any of the content. They're just linking stuff. So,
but it's still more work than just pulling in the folders, correct?
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is more work than just pulling in folder for sure. So the next thing I need to do then is, once my playlist is done, I need to place it in Schoology. And that's actually quite easy. So there's two ways, there's a lot of ways to do this. We could put it on a page, or we can put it on that folder that we were talking about. So one way to do it would be to do add materials and add my folder. Or if I've pulled in that folder, then it's already sitting there. It just doesn't have a picture on it. So if I've pulled in a folder, let's say it's just this one, then I'm going to I've pulled it in from my resources, and I'll hit edit. Okay. And what a lot of people skip is they don't type anything here on the description. I'm a huge fan of putting the playlist on the folder because, again, that means as soon as my student gets to the course, it is right there in their face. And it does work just like a page pretty much. So when they click on insert, when you click on insert content, you can use your Google Drive app, click on that, and you'll just find your playlist. If it doesn't pop up, you can always search it. I expect it to pop up, to be honest. There it is. I click on it, and like I do a lot of things, like all the async stuff is I hit import and import embed, and it's gonna suck it in there. There it is. And if you've done one the shape of mine, you want it to be big enough they can read it. I know people are picky like me and hate the black space around it. So while I can stretch it and make it fill the space, one way to do that is to click here on the little image icon and fool with this number. Now, I don't know these numbers. I know they mean pixels, but I know just because I've done it 100 times that mine fits at about 1200. It looks nice. So when I hit insert and save changes, it'll now be on that folder and it fits almost perfectly. I could fool with it a little bit more to make it fit perfectly. And now my kids never have to go into the folder and see all the mess. They can click on the links that I'll have here to go find whatever content I want, and they can watch my little video that's embedded, like Kelly had said, to get the overview straight from me, sans mask, for the week. Okay, so that's the general way to do it. The other way to do it would be to make a page and do the very same steps and just make that the first page in your folder. Okay, get rid of that. All right, are there any questions that we did not cover? And then we're right that we need to talk about the sharing process a little bit more.
Rebecca has a question about needing to make a different playlist for our EC students.
So the way that EC classes were split, then yes, if you have an EC student, they might be in a different section of the course, which means, yes, unfortunately, those links are different. We have discussed that a little bit with the Power School folks to see if it's always going to be that way, see if there's a way around that. And we're still talking to them about that pretty frequently. But right now, yeah, it would be a separate one. Okay. Now, again, right now we're talking playlists. So these are to-do lists for students. But the end game goal would be that the playlist for the EC student and the Reg Ed kids would be different anyway, right? Because it would be different content that they'd be getting to begin with. So the content would have to, I mean, the links would be totally different anyway. And that's something that I guess I would call, or you could make one pathway that would have the different options on it. It would have the differentiated stuff on it. Okay, I'm going to check out the questions one more time to make sure. I got you, Christy. Okay.
So I think we've answered them all.
Okay.
There was one that best practices for introducing it to students and parents.
That's right. That's right. So I'm hopeful that because when you enter my course, it is right here to greet you, that there's no question of how to navigate it, whereas I know there were questions on how to navigate courses from the jump. And I kind of liken it to any other website, right? If I've done a really good job making the navigation for it, no one trains anybody how to navigate Facebook. Everybody fusses when the app changes, but they figure it out. And I know I'm not trying to make light of the situation at all. I'm trying to say that if my graphic and visual interface, which is what this playlist acts as, is clear enough, I shouldn't need a detailed introduction. But I would definitely show the students when they were in my building, if I'm a face-to-face teacher, I would definitely use the playlist. I would use it even in class to show my kids how to navigate it so that it becomes second nature. Because this is kind of the way we suggest navigating everything. So hopefully it becomes something that's old hat as they move from one grade to the next. Even if the person's playlist looks a little different, it's just like somebody's website looking a little bit different. It's the same kind of thing. So on slide 12 of the presentation, you can see that there are steps to not really just building a playlist, but how you should be building content in Schoology. So you'll see that the first 4 steps don't involve a playlist. It's just unpacking your standards and making sure you understand the learning targets you're trying to teach that week, creating the folder and building out your content in it. So one folder for the week for each subject, and it has the items in an order in there. And then you build all that in Schoology. You embed any third-party apps that you need, like a Seesaw, a Flipgrid, or whatever it might be that you like to use, Nearpod. And then you use the template that you had from last week, really, just to reinvent the playlist that week, add in any new directions or goals, and obviously all the links to the new stuff, and pop that into Schoology. The sharing process for a group of teachers would go kind of like this. You make the content in Schoology. If you share all that content for that subject with that teacher, at your PLC, you shove that content into the resource. At your PLC or at your grade level meeting or your planning meeting, whatever meeting you call it, you go through all that content together, making sure everybody knows the content and is an expert of the content individually, like you've done for years. Then everybody pulls that content into their course, and that part, the Schoology part, is done. Then I go and link all the stuff to my playlist however I want to navigate it. Keep in mind, it doesn't even have to be in the same order. If I just do things a little bit differently, it's probably in the same order if it's lesson planned together anyway, though, right? And then the playlist gets embedded. So this is kind of the general steps, making sure that any kind of documents in there are shared to anyone with link and view, or at least GCS. There's videos in here on how to make the template and slides, link stuff from Schoology into it, and display it. And then I'll hush, Christy. I'm sorry it took so much time.
No, you're fine. Okay, I'll start because we're almost at 2 o'clock.
Right.
So if you want to just go back, okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Just to say, and let me bring it over to here. All right, so basically our takeaways: increase the visual elements to assist in navigation, like Kyle was saying, that will help with your parents too, and the student flow. It should be obvious to what they need to do. That doesn't mean you don't have to go over it. I understand our little babies, they need some support, but they should understand the flow. Be sure to organize your content consistently. Don't change it up every week. And start with your standards. Always start with your standards and unpack the task so you can see what the proficiency looks like. And you can add differentiation in each stage as you feel comfortable as we move from playlist through learning paths.
Right.
So it is 2 o'clock. If you would like to, real quick, because I'm going to move on to the submit your artifact. The submitting a 6-word story. This is a great instructional strategy from Discovery Education. 6 words, nothing more, nothing less. In the chat, telling me your concept of playlist now. You got a minute because I want to be a good steward of your time. But here's the place to submit your artifact. It's due by next week at this time on Wednesday. The link is in there. And so what we will need is a copy of your playlist. However, it needs to be the link from Schoology. So don't send us the actual Google Doc or slide link. So right here, if this is the one that I was sending to you guys for my artifact, I'm going to pull the link up here in the top, just like Kyle has showed you before. And I'm going to copy and paste that link into the form. So when we go in, we will see it built within Schoology. And as always, don't forget about all the services that we have at bit.ly/gastondigital/Schoology. It'll give you everything you need and more.